Welcome back to the Community Review on Hot 92.3. I'm Josefa Salinas, your host. There's a lot of things going on in California. We've got a new governor, and there's all kinds of budget situations happening everywhere from local cities, all kinds of decisions being made about the state of California. But the most important thing that we need to think about is education in California. The California population is aging. It's becoming more diverse. Baby boomers are retiring, especially between 2011 and 2029. Who are they going to be replaced with? Currently, 5.3 million adults lack a high school diploma. That's 53% of the 18 to 44-year-olds who currently live in California. They don't have a high school diploma. What are we going to do? Well, if they keep cutting the budget, we're going to end up with a workforce that's not very smart. How will California prosper at that point? There's a bill out, AB 189. Here to talk with us about this bill, the need for it, is Matt Smith, the past president of the California Adult Education, and Cindy Perulin-Kofer, state legislative chair for the California Council on Adult Education. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great to be here.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this bill. First of all, what is it? Why do we need it? And why is adult education so important?
You know, what happened with the economic crisis in California is that the state government created a categorical flexibility, which gave school districts some flexibility to move money around in order to make sure our schools were open and kids were taught. One of the things that happened is that programs like adult education ended up in that pot where there was some flexibility.
Is that what's called categorical flexibility? Okay.
Yes. And so what's occurred is that as the economy's gotten worse and worse, and funding for school districts have gotten even more difficult to get for its kids, they're making tough choices. And one of the choices for some school districts is to take the money from the adult education programs to put them into these other programs. And that's happening also with ROPs, with GATE programs, et cetera. And AB 189 is really just saying it's important that the legislative intent, which is to not wipe out programs, continue, and that school districts certify that there's sufficient amount of money to run some of these programs, because adult education is really specifically for who you talked about, Josefa, these 5.3 million people that don't have a high school diploma, the job training that we need to get in order to get the economy going. And it's a big push and pull as to where you're going to find the money to provide those. You know, some districts like Hacienda La Puente are committed to the community, and they provide all of the services from, pre-K all the way to the adult, and that helps the kids because it helps the families to be successful. But across the state, there are schools that are being closed dramatically, and those services for those adults that need it to get back into the workforce is disappearing.
Well, I mean, it's going to have a dramatic effect, especially now when you have, what are they predicting, another 1 million homes are going to foreclose this year. And we just saw a 60-minute special. Families who never in their wildest dreams ever imagined themselves to not have a home are living with relatives, living with friends. Parents have lost jobs that they've been in for 15, 20 years. And now they're sitting there going, okay, this is all I've done for 20 years. What do I do now? And they have to go relearn a new skill.
Right.
So if we don't have these programs available, this could actually end up being far more catastrophic than we're even imagining.
Exactly.
That's a very good point. We know the kids that there's need for K-12, and this bill, AB 189, does not take away from the kids. But from a community stance, it's exactly what you just said. The kids are in need, but the adults are in total crisis. When you look at unemployment at 12 to 13%, and you look at 20 to 25% of adults in California not having a high school diploma, and you look at 30% dropout rate at the high school level, and the poverty level that's in so many districts, anywhere from the district that we're in, 87% poverty level. The one neighboring to us in the 90s. And when you look at those, you see the kids, while the kids have it tough, but when you look at their parents, you see a full-blown crisis in the community. And what 189 does, it looks to sustain a certain amount of level of adult education in communities, and over 300 adult schools that enable adults to go get English as a second language, to get job training skills. Under the current flexibility, rules, which is looking to be extended through 2015, potentially these could all be wiped out. And where would the adults go after that? What would they have access to? And so it's very vital that there is some sustainability for adult school programs throughout California to help parents who are literally just in crisis. And you talked about losing homes and things like, and jobs and things like that. You know, if these aren't available to the parents in our community, it's only going to get worse.
Well, I think that we need to look at the ripple effect of all of it. The effect of children whose parents don't have jobs. These kids might drop out of school. They might start doing bad in school because when parents don't have jobs, generally the relationship gets tense. The parental relationship can get tense. Just having been a juvenile probation officer and working with kids for years, I know that that's the outcome of it. And then you might have kids who start committing crimes thinking that I need to go steal so that our family can have some food. And now you've got kids who might not have ever committed crimes, possibly heading in that direction, all as a result of the top, which is if you don't take care of the parents and their ability to provide, it's going to have a ripple effect, and that effect is not going to be good.
Exactly.
Right.
So I can't imagine who would oppose this.
Right. Well, the statistics show that if you have unemployed parents, there's a five times greater chance that student will drop out of school simply because of either economics or, you know, the things that you've talked about, the socio-emotional issues that are going on in that family. And you know, at risk is going to pervade throughout this whole site. And, you know, I think there's some people that think, oh my gosh, we don't want to lose flexibility. And we're not saying that the AB 189 is to lose any flexibility. What really is just re-emphasizing is that the legislature had never had any intent to wipe out these programs, and that there's a purpose for this program if we want to get out of the economic crisis we're in and go into recovery.
So exactly what will 189 do? AB 189 will
ask a school district to ensure that there is sufficient programs to sustain things like adult ed or regional occupational programs, career training, through flexibility, and that they have to certify that there's enough staff hired for those programs so that when flexibility ends, that program can still go ahead full blown as soon as flexibility ends. We understand that there's going to be cuts because it's hard for school districts to make choices. You've got kindergartners, you've got seniors that need to graduate. And adult schools in a lot of these districts help everywhere. They provide those services for those parents so that they can learn English and help their kids at school get that short-term training to get back into the workforce. And we help them get a high school diploma. We help high school students get their extra credit so that they can walk across that stage. And if you do that for a family, that changes sort of the dynamics of what education is as a purpose and a focus. And we believe that that's really fundamental in terms of success for the family, for the community, and the state.
Mike Ing is the author of the bill, and you know, we definitely understand that the superintendents and the school districts need flexibility to make ends meet right now, as there's constant cuts and on almost a yearly basis. But what this bill does is it enables adult schools to sustain their existence. And what Cindy and myself get on a regular basis daily are adult schools that are being shut down, adult schools that are 10% funded, 20% funded from what they used to get 100% from the state or their district. And what this does is it's not even a compromise. It's just an understanding that adult schools need to survive. They need to still be active in the community. They need to address the parents and their needs, all the needs that Cindy just listed. At the same time, it understands the district's in a tough time, and it still can have access to that categorical funding that it needs to survive, but that adult ed and other categorical programs are important. And the state originally designated money for special needs groups, and it's not fair or right that these be abolished just because you can right now. You know, there needs to be a sense of these underserved individuals still need to be served, maybe not the level they once were, but they still need to be recognized.
So what can we as an audience do to support this? Because clearly this is going to be in politicians' hands for a while.
Right. It's actually scheduled for for a discussion at the legislature on March 30th. So what's really important for the public to do is to call their local legislature. They are the voters that put these folks into office, and talk to them and say that they want him or her to support AB 189 so that it gets through the education committee in the assembly and it gets voted on. It's really important to make the phone call to their local offices. It's send a note, fax a note, send a letter, and make sure that they see that losing something like this could really have a huge impact down the road when it's gone. There's a lot of school districts that understand that and have supported and understand serving the community is the most important thing for the stability of the kids. But there's other areas that, some of these places have closed down, and it's hard to start back up if you don't have at least a kernel of what was there structurally and fundamentally. Alhambra's shut down.
Jeez.
And that's why Mike King has a special interest,
Right.
is he has so many people in his area that need support and help, and it's gone. It's non-existent. And like I said, we get emails on a continuous basis just asking for help from California Council of Adult Education. And we were just up in Sacramento last week. We had 100 people who flew up to the state, came into the Capitol and lobbied. We had a very successful run of getting support, some additional co-authors. And so we're not an organization that is just here this morning pleading for help for the community. We've got a lobbyist. We've made connections with Mr. Ng to support this, to write this, and then we're behind him at the state level, knocking on doors, walking hallways, making appointments. So as Cindy said, the calls and information to their local assemblymen, senators, etc., will be invaluable for us.
It'll influence the vote. So, that's critical. There are a lot of legislators that are very supportive. We met with a lot of them, but, the co-authors of this bill when it first came out, Assemblyman Torres, Assemblyman Fong, Assemblyman Swanson, and real key players. And a lot that we talked with last week really wanted to come back as co-authors. So a big push from the public is to call their legislator and say, are you a co-author? Are you supporting AB 189? Because we would like you to make sure that we get training to get employed and go out there and help this economy come back up.
Very good. Well, I'll make sure that I list on my website access numbers and emails to your local assembly members, and maybe I'll just put the whole list up. It just takes a phone call. Call them up or email them and just say adult education is important, because if we do not educate the 53% or 2,900,000 people between the ages of 18 and 44 who do not possess a high school diploma, where will our state be in 10 years? We've got to keep some funding in there for adult education, because that trickles down to the family. Imagine, it could be you without a job 6 months from now. What would you do if you lost your job tomorrow? What are you trained in? What do you know how to do? Maybe you've got a job that you're tired of and you want to do something else. What if that opportunity for education was not there? This bill, AB 189, will ensure that some funding stays in place so that these programs exist and continue to help our adults who need this education so badly. It's not just about people who maybe made mistakes in life and, now they're looking for a way to get a training. This is about your neighbors. This is about your family members. This is about the people in your town who need to have access to adult education and programs. Our senior citizens, this is some of those programs as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have got to support this bill. Funding has to stay in place. Some kind of funding has to stay in place for these programs. AB 189 is the way to get it through. And how do we get that through? We call our assembly members and tell them that we want this to stay in place. And I'm counting on you to call your assembly members and make sure that they know that AB 189 is important to the city of Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles, to the people of Southern California. Cindy, Matt, thank you so much for coming down. Do you have any closing comments, any urging for the audience?
Pick up the phone today and do it.
Absolutely.
You can call anytime and leave a message. You can email 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Send them emails. Tell everybody you know to send them emails. Let them know that we're listening, we're watching. We put them in office, and we expect them to listen. Do it today. Go to hot923.com, keyword Josefa. The list of the assembly members will be there. Call, email, let them know how important education is to us here in Southern California. Coming up next, a little bit lighter subject. Is it possible to be diet-free for life? Interesting concept. And we'll pursue it next on the Community Review. Hot 92.3. Stay close.